All right. Well, Amy, it is so fun to have you back. I feel like your mascot. I wore the colors of your book. Even
I
my
love it.
back of my room, my
It's
studio is yellow.
perfect.
Oh my gosh. So I am so grateful for you, for your time, for your brilliance, your wisdom. And I just want to say this book, if for those who are watching, we all, I have this video and audio. This book, 2 weeks notice, is so badass. And I love the title. Like, how can we just talk a little bit? Like, how did it come to you? How long did it take to write this? And then we'll get into the book itself.
Okay, so it came to me about 2 years ago when I really started. I've been in business 14 years. I've been out on my own since my last corporate job 14 years. And I knew I wanted to write a book. As entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs think about writing a book at one point or another. But I thought, who do I want to write this book to? And it instantly came to me. I wanted to write it to the people that are just starting out, going out on their own, because to me, that was the hardest time. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to ask. I was very clueless in my first 2 years of building my own business. So I wrote the book that I wish I had all those years ago to, one, help me transition out of my 9 to 5 job. That felt a little bit rocky. Like, what decisions do I need to make? What do I need to set up before I leave? How do I get that foundation set up so I can win? And then when I went out on my own, what the heck do I do? So I wrote the book that I wish I had all those years ago.
Oh my gosh. And I wish you had written this years ago when I left. And I was like, what do I do?
Right?
Literally. Yeah.
Exactly.
So great. I guess, one of the things, just for those who may not have heard, we spoke about a year or so ago, and I know you told your story, but maybe just like the quick overview. I mean, you had an amazing, I know, background and career, and maybe just to share for a moment what you did before, how you decided to leave, and like a tiny overview of why you're in love with what you do now, because it oozes out of everything you do, which I
Yes. So 14 years ago, my very last 9 to 5 job, I worked with peak performance coach Tony Robbins, and I got to travel the world with Tony and the team, work on the content that he does on stage, like events like Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny. If you know Tony, you know those events.
love.
And it was incredible. I was really, really blessed. They paid me well. I got to do really cool things. However, I call that the golden handcuffs because at the end of the day, what I really wanted was freedom. I didn't want to be told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. I wanted to make my own money and I didn't want to be on someone else's time or someone else's dime. And I had hit a glass ceiling. And so, even though the job was good, I knew ultimately I wanted to call the shots. And so, after 6.5 years of working there, I decided to put a plan together and go out on my own. And once I got really serious about it, it took me about 6 months to kind of figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And even still, when I went out on my own, like I mentioned, it was a little bit rocky in the first few years. But if you fast forward to today, I've helped over 50,000 students through my digital courses, generated $85 million in this business. And really, my mission is to help more and more people leave behind what's no longer serving them, typically a 9 to 5 job, and step into this world that many don't even know exists. Like when I think about writing this book, I think about the fact that I didn't know this world existed. I didn't know I could be my own boss and call the shots and create something amazing. And I sure as heck didn't believe in myself in those early years. So if I can help people believe in themselves and actually lead them toward a business and a life they love, I'm all for it. So really that's basically how I got here. Now, beyond the book, I teach people how to grow email lists and how to take their knowledge, know-how, and skill set and turn that into profitable digital courses. So I specialize in those areas, but big picture, I help people leave their jobs and start a business.
Mm. And I want to say what's so funny is I'm remembering when I left my job 8 years ago, I remember coming across you and your work and being like, thank you so much. And then eventually did your digital course. That's like a whole other conversation, but love, 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 like truly love the work you're doing. And so I remember thinking like, thank God you did listen to yourself. Thank God you did do this because that is insane amount of people that you have. It's amazing how many people
Yeah.
you've helped. I, being one of them, can tell you, I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, so grateful you listened to that small voice or whatever was in you that said, I want to do this. And, I know that's part of the whole idea with your book is to help those that want to really be able to have freedom and to do what
Yes.
they love.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see, this is a question I get a lot, and I'm curious if you have thoughts about this with being an entrepreneur. Like, I don't know. I had no idea. I really never sat with it and thought, like, am I not? I just thought I love the work of coaching. I love the work of teaching. I'm just going to go do it. Do you see certain types being really made to be an entrepreneur versus others not? Or is that a myth, you think?
I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody. I
Yeah.
think it's something that you have like a calling on your heart for wanting to do your own thing. And looking back, I was a really great employee and I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. Like this is the God's honest truth. I
Yeah.
never used the word entrepreneur. That felt way too fancy. And I definitely wasn't like from a really young age thinking about how to make my own money and do my own thing. Like you hear about like Gary Vaynerchuk always talks about selling those baseball cards and he was like an entrepreneur at a very young age. That was not me whatsoever. And so when I think about going out and doing my own thing, I don't think everyone is cut out for it. And the only really way you know is do you have a desire to do your own thing or not? Like my sister, she is a first grade teacher. She still lives in the town we grew up in. She married a firefighter. So did I. My husband was a firefighter, and so was my dad. So it kind of runs in the family. But she loves her life and she does good in this world. Would she ever want to do her own thing? Absolutely not. I try to talk her into it all the time and show her all this money she could make if she would just, change what she's doing. No interest. And so, one, I have to respect that. But two, I do think those listening today, though, you probably wouldn't be listening to a podcast like this if it wasn't on your heart to go after your own thing. You don't have to be a certain personality. You don't have to have certain skills that only translate into entrepreneurship. Who you are right now, if you have it on your heart, you can absolutely figure it out.
Hmm. I got to write that down. That is so well said. And I really, really, I truly agree. If you have it on your heart, you'll figure it out.
Yes.
And you also use the word desire. And I think that's so crucial. I'm even thinking I'm shifting over. I don't know if I'm sure you've read Think and Grow Rich, which is such an
Yes.
important book with just anything with manifestation. And the word that stuck out at me is they talk all about desire, the desire, that can be enough in itself if you have that
It
passion.
really is. And here's
Yeah.
a big mistake I made early on. And I talk about this in the book. I created a business and like went gung ho, like a total hustler, like did everything I could to make this business work. And then I burned out. Like by year two, I was burned out. I thought I'd be working less hours than my 9 to 5 job. That wasn't the case. I'm like, where is this on the beach laptop, Mai Tai in hand? Like, where is that lifestyle that people promised? And it wasn't anything like that. But the mistake I made is I didn't get clear on the lifestyle that I wanted, how I wanted to live my life, how I wanted to
Mm.
show up. Even things like, did I want to pick up my son from school at 3 p.m.? Did I want all my weekends off? How did I want to navigate through all of this? I didn't think of anything. And then I created a business and had to stuff my lifestyle into my business. Where
Mm.
those that are thinking of entrepreneurship, first think about the lifestyle you want to create because that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You get to call the shots. So think about how you want to be in this world, what you want your life to look like, then build a business around that. I think that is the best way to get into entrepreneurship.
Mm. Yeah, I wish I'd had that advice
Right? I
way
just
back
didn't
when.
know. Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and I think that that is so important too. I'm even just setting the tone that you are the one, you're steering the ship. When you make this decision, you do get to decide that. And we've had, I mean, a lot of listeners write in about getting burnt out, overwhelmed. And so it sounds like that's kind of what happened until you got clear. This is the lifestyle I actually want. It's not the over hustle, because it doesn't sound like that really served you very well.
No, absolutely. And I firmly believe you do not have to hustle to make this work. I've seen it
Mm.
time and time again from my students who did another way. So I'm going to advocate for that all day long.
One of the things I have, like, lots and lots of questions and notes from your book. So I'm just gonna
I
start
love
with you talked about dialing into your you factor.
it.
And I thought that might be just a nice place to kind of to just dig in. This whole show is about being your youest you, which I was like, oh, this feels very connected. Maybe just talk for a minute. What does that mean? And how do we do that?
Yeah. So, this idea of the you factor is making sure that you're creating a business that is authentically you from the get go. No excuses, no apologies. You're going to do it your way. And one of the ways that you do that, the first thing you do is you have to get very clear on why you want to create a business. Because getting clear on why you want this will allow you to step into saying, okay, this is what I want. This is why I want it. And I am willing to do whatever it takes within my power to make it happen on my terms. I use that phrase a lot, on your terms. Let's not ever create something that you don't absolutely love. And so, this idea of getting clear on your why, understanding, like for me, my why was very selfish, and I'm totally fine with that. It's morphed over the years, of course. But in the beginning, it was about me. I didn't want to be told what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. I wanted to call the shots. I wanted freedom. That was my why. And then I started to think about, okay, how am I going to create this and how do I stay true to who I am? That's why that idea of creating your lifestyle first and building a business around that allows you to stay true to who you are because you're doing what you want in a way you want to do it. I
Yeah.
think, it's so easy to be someone else online because you think you should be a certain way. I
Yeah.
don't think it's necessary at all.
Mm. Well, and even just on a tangent with that, I think it can be very easy to, especially starting out, to get caught up in comparison
Yes.
and, the whole imposter, not feeling good enough. I don't know if you want to head into
Yes.
that land for a minute, but I mean, as someone I've been doing this a while, I have to watch that myself and just be like, everyone in it, we're all in our own lane. Just stay in your lane,
Yes.
Julie. Stay.
Oh my goodness. So it's so true. When you're first starting out, I encourage my students to kind of look around and see who's doing what you want to be doing, kind of just to get a sense of what that looks like and how they're doing it. But once you kind of get clear on what you want to do and you kind of get your roadmap, which is what my book's all about, I want you to put blinders on.
Mm.
Racehorses wear blinders. They can't look left or right, only forward, and they run their own race. And I think it's really important to run your own race because the minute you come up and you start to look around, once you get into it, you're going to compare yourself to everybody else. She's already doing it. She's been doing it for years. She does it way better than me. And then all of a sudden you feel like there's no room for you. Or you look at someone online and you feel very envious of what they've created or what they're doing. And I always say the minute you feel envious or jealous of anybody else online, usually a stranger, all you need to do is flip the script and ask yourself, what do they have that I want? Because that envy feeling is just because they're doing something or have something that you want. So let's get clear. What do they have that you want? And let's figure out a plan to go get it. Now, I'm 14 years in and I still find days where I think, I'm not cut out to do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. It still comes up for me. The difference between me 14 years in versus maybe my first or second year is I could snap out of it pretty quickly and say, no, 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 we're not going there. I have a
Mhm.
proven track record. I know how to do this. I'm going to just keep moving forward and serving those people I know how to serve. But when your first or second year, you don't have a huge proven track record. And it's very easy to feel like you are not enough or not good enough or have what it takes. And you have to keep coming back to your why. Even
Mm.
though I feel self conscious about this, even though I feel really nervous to put myself out there, I want this because of this, like your why. I want it because of whatever it is. So I'm going to go out and get it. So you do it scared, you do it anxious, you keep moving forward, you put your blinders on, you tap into why you feel envious. These are all different things I talk about in the book in order to keep your head in the game.
Oh, first of all, thank you for just letting us know that you felt that, which I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no, there's no way she does. I don't even believe
No,
it, but
all
I
the
do believe
time.
you. It's very, no, it's inspiring and it's helpful to hear like, oh yeah, that's a human emotion. Well, and I want to say, because the title, your book, 2 weeks notice, find the courage to quit your job, make more money, work where you want and change the world. And what really just stood out to me is this word courage. This is it. I mean, it takes I may swear, a little shit ton of courage to
It
do to
it
do this work.
does. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. The reason I chose the word courage over confidence on that front page of that book is because confidence comes when you have a proven track record. When you see what you've been able to do and think, "Look, I've come this far, I can keep going." But when you're starting out, you don't have a track record. So you
Yeah.
only can tap into courage, which is a leap of faith, saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure it out. And then if it doesn't work, I'm going to course correct and I'm going to get back in there and I'm going to figure it out some more. But
Yeah.
it does take like you said, a shitload of our courage in order to move forward. And then the confidence will come later.
Yeah. You know what also just I love words. I'm like one of those people that loves words. But even the root of courage is core, which is heart. And
Ooh,
so
I love that.
it goes back to the why. And I just had this image of like, let that why live in your heart. And so take that movement from your heart. And we talked about the course correcting because I remember that last time and I was like, that is so important to remember and expect that you are going to there's going to be course correcting and iterating. That's what
Yes.
happens.
There's
Yeah.
no way around it. Absolutely. You are going to crash and burn. No matter if you have my book 2 weeks notice or not, there's going to be
Yeah.
mistakes you're going to make. And you just have to believe that you can course correct. And what's important, I know a lot of women listening now, you might be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, beyond. We have evidence that we've course corrected in our lives. We have evidence where we've had a crash and burn and we've gotten back up. Don't even get me started on all my bad relationships I had before I found my husband. Like, I got through all of those. I got through some really bad times. And in my business, I've gone through some really bad times. I tell stories in 2 weeks notice that I did not want to tell. I was afraid they'd make me look too weak. I'm supposed to be the guide teaching you how to do this, and I'm sharing all the ugly parts of this as well. But I did that to make sure that people knew this is not all rainbows and sunshine, but the rewards far exceed the hard times to get there. So I wanted to tell those stories. But yeah, it's so important to tap into that courage.
Mm. I love this conversation. I think it really humanizes the whole experience. And I want to say, so smart for anyone that's like, what you just said, Amy, go look for evidence where you have course corrected and make a little evidence list and show yourself, dang, I'm good
Yes.
at this. I'm
I
good at this.
love that. Yes, every hardship you've ever gone through, you've gotten through it. You are alive, you are breathing, you are here with us today. It
Yeah.
is proof that you can figure this out.
Amen. All right. So, oh my gosh, I feel on fire talking about
I
this.
love it.
I wish I had this conversation, as we said earlier, like your
Oh,
roadmap, your book 8 years ago. That's okay. I know one of the things you talked about is that so cute. You ain't for everyone, boo. You're not for everybody.
yes.
This again with the blinders, let's talk about your ideal customer, your ideal client avatar, what that means. I've seen this and I'm sure you've seen this a ton, especially with the courses you run where people are like, I know for me, I was like, I really want to help everybody. And
Everyone.
it's like,
Yes.
that's going to get you nobody.
So this chapter, You Ain't for Everyone, Boo, came about because I started to post online and I started to do that more. And I wanted to like really put a stake in the ground for what I believe in and how to market yourself and all that. And I put out an opinion, and this one guy online was like just attacking me. And then like 2 or 3 people came into the conversation agreeing with him. And of course, I thought it was like 300 people, even though it was 3 because I made it bigger in my mind. And I called my good girlfriend Jasmine Starr and I said, this guy's attacking me online and he doesn't like my opinion about this one strategy. And she started laughing and she said, you ain't for everyone, boo. Like you can't be for everyone online. There's no way you're going to make everyone happy. And in that moment I realized, why did I ever think that I could make everyone like me online? There's like no way that's going to happen. And then another thing happened where when I first came out with my business, I used to teach Facebook marketing in the very early days, and I just taught it to everybody. And then these people started coming to me asking me about how to get more foot traffic in their brick and mortar store with my Facebook marketing strategies. I've never owned a brick and mortar. I don't know how to get foot traffic in. That wasn't my area of expertise. So I started to say, I help people with information, programs, products, services, and coaching. Meaning, if you're going to put your knowledge out there and package it up, I'm your girl and I'll teach you how to market it. And then I started to feel more confident in what I was teaching because I wasn't for everybody, but I was for a certain subset. And then people started to find me more because they knew what I could do to help them. So when you start to really laser in on who you serve, the first thing you likely think about is, but what about all the other people? I don't want to leave anyone out. but no one's going to find you when you just are in the sea of noise online. So you have to put a stake in the ground, say who you are for. And here's the magic of this. Even people who aren't exactly a fit for you, if they like you, they're going to find you. So I still have people in my audience who still have brick and mortars, but they just like my strategy. So they figure out how to use them for their own businesses. So there's a little bit of magic that comes from finding your ideal customer avatar, but you do need to think of that one person that you serve. Give them a name, give them a persona, let them come to life. So when you create your podcast, write your blogs, write your emails, you know who you're writing to and you know how you serve them. And a lot of times the easiest way to find an avatar, it might just be you, but like 5 years ago. So you can just kind of show them the way. That's one of the easiest ways to find your avatar.
It's almost like what you were saying. I wish that I'd had this roadmap years before. And so I'm imagining you could easily pull yourself like where you were,
Yes.
you wanted, as you said, to find freedom to call the shots. And, I know many, many, many other women and men probably too that are like, yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. This also makes a difference because I've just seen with you and your speaking and writing, it feels so personalized because you imagining, thinking, speaking to that one person, and you can feel that it's very specific and that it is you understand you understand where they're coming from, which is so important.
Absolutely. It allows me to
Yeah.
have a level of compassion that I might not have
Mm.
had if I hadn't walked in their shoes before. And so it allows me to just know what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they need, because I've been there. So it does make it more powerful.
Yeah. Okay, another thing. So these are all in themselves, by the way, I know could be their own, and you do have courses. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Even you talk about an email list and building it, content, being a content queen. I'm like, this all could be, and I know they are their own
Yes.
courses, but I think for someone who's getting started with let's start with the content piece, the content queen. Like, where do you begin? It can be very overwhelming. Some like social media, some don't. Like, where do you start there?
Yeah, so content is everything. And those of you who are still in a 9 to 5 job, you can actually start creating content now if you want to start a blog or a podcast or a video show or whatever it might be. One thing I teach in the book is to find one platform. So for me, it's a podcast. For you, it's a podcast. But just start with one. And you want to start thinking, okay, how can I create content on the regular? And yes, you could start with social media, but I'm not a huge fan of social media. I use it because it's necessary. Sometimes I shouldn't say this, but I feel like it's a necessary evil because
Yeah.
it really can zap the energy out of you. And it's a really unfortunate breeding ground for comparing yourself to everybody else. But there's some beautiful engagement you can have with it as well. So I use social media to attract my audience. But from there, I move them onto my podcast because I can add so much more value every single week on my podcast. So in the book, I talk about how to create your content, how to choose your messaging for your content, how to plan your content, where you're posting your content, why the content is so important. It's a huge part of the book because it allows you to start growing an audience. One of the biggest challenges my students will tell me is, Amy, I have no one to market to. I don't have an audience yet. And so content is going to change that, but it's something you absolutely want to embrace early on.
And I want to add, because just in going through your book, I have a coaching program and I was looking in the back. You have like amazing templates,
Yes.
emails. And I was like, these are awesome. I'm going to just, I was like,
Good.
thank you,
Yes.
Amy. I was like looking at what I wrote and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to add this. And I pulled that. And I was like, that's so
Good.
smart. So
That's
like,
that's
yes.
a part of the book I love. And I also give a URL that you can only get when you get the book where you can go to a resource center and you can download even more templates and scripts and guides and all of that. So we really wanted to make this like, let's make your online marketing as easy as possible. So I give a lot of examples in the book.
Like lots. And I'm just saying that everyone, whether you have a business or starting one, or even thinking in your mind, like, if I had a magic, like unicorn fairy wand, what would I do? And I want to start this. This book, like for someone, I've been doing this a little while and I'm like, that was excellent. I didn't think of that before.
I love
Think about
that.
this. So yeah, no, really, thank you. Email list. Let's
Yes.
talk about this. And I will say it's so funny to me. Well, social media, one of the things actually I will say what's lovely with your, when I don't probably get all the posts, but I do see a lot of them and it's always feels so genuine and authentic. And I love that I'm like, oh, I feel like I know your hobby. I feel like
Yes,
you
right?
guys are so cute together. However, I know that you've talked about this through your courses that I've done and just in listening to your podcast that email lists have a different weight than social media and it's an important thing to build. And for somebody who's just starting, I know when I had just started, I mean, I was like thrilled to have 47 people on there when I first began.
Right. Yes.
It's grown thankfully, and we start wherever we start. And so maybe for those that I know a lot of the coaches who I work with or come out of my program, they start with almost no one. And it's like, don't get discouraged. So to that person who is just getting on the runway, what can you say about email lists?
Yes. Okay. So I always say that an email list is something that most people will wait to start, but then they always regret that they waited so long, including me. And so social media is fickle. You cannot build your business on social media alone. It's like building your business on rented land. And what I mean by that is Mark Zuckerberg, or now Elon Musk, can change that algorithm like that. And the way you were doing business online can dramatically change. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So instead, the smartest marketers, the ones that are really getting big results, what they're doing is they're taking social media and using it to pull in an audience, but then they're taking it to the next level, which they're getting names and emails. So in exchange for some kind of lead magnet, a freebie, a checklist, a cheat sheet, whatever it might be, in exchange for name and email. And then you control that email list. I can email my list any day of the week and make money. Any day. And not because I have a huge email list, but because they're engaged. One of my students, he had an email list of 100 people. He created his very first program. He's a photographer and he taught people how to use flash photography that looks like natural light. So he created this little program during COVID, never had launched anything online before, made $12,000 with 100 people on his email list. And it's because these people were engaged. With social media, there's only so far you can go, but if you send an email, it can get 4 times or more bigger results than any social media post. So you've got to focus on growing your email list. It's an entire chapter step by step in my book.
Oh my gosh. I love your example with 100 people and the $12,000. I think
God,
there's,
I see it all the time.
and I know you've talked about this, especially with the course and your digital course academy. I mean, I've heard others, that have shared their experience that didn't have a big list. And so I think that piece of engagement, if we were to look at I know this is its own thing, but engagement, what do you think is so important, especially for those that are like, I'm not a copywriter. I don't really know how to write emails. I mean, I remember when I started, first of all, I had like 7 fonts on the website I had created myself during lunch. It was like hilarious. Like literally, you should not have Cabin Sketch and Comic Sans ever together unless it's a camp or,
Oh,
or a
love it.
birthday party for a kid. Right.
Yes.
And then my emails looked like that with like 7 colors. And I was like, it just, I mean, thank God people stuck around for some bizarre reason, but I was like, wow, those were definitely not super skilled, but it's where I started.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. All of us will have those moments. I have some videos that I'm like, what is the lighting in that video? Or why am I doing it in a bedroom with a bed behind me or whatever it might be? But we just do what we can in the beginning. And from websites to emails to what to write in that email, the secret here is to actually get started. Because like you and I, we took action, imperfect action. We kind of cringe at those first few years of what we put out there. But we're here today with success because we got started. Most people won't even start. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I feel like you're a different breed. I feel like you actually do want to get started if you haven't started already, or you are starting and you want to scale. And so still, it just takes action. And when you think about emails, a lot of people will say, okay, let's say you have 100 people on your email list. What are you supposed to write to them? What are you supposed to put in those emails? And here's the distinction that most people don't get. When I said that I want you to create content, whether it be a blog or a podcast or a video show, every week, if you're doing that, then you're emailing your list saying, I've got a new blog for you. Here's what it's about. Don't miss the part about XYZ. Click here to go check it out. So you're kind of piquing their interest. So now the people you already have in your audience, you're nurturing them with your content, but you're also writing that blog to attract new people who don't yet know you. So creating weekly original content brings new people in, but through your email list, it helps you nurture those you already have. That's the value of content and email marketing.
Mm. And I, with so many podcasts out there, and I'm a big believer, the same thing with books, it's like we can't have enough.
Right.
Everyone has a story. I mean, really, and I know, just talking to some, budding entrepreneurs that are like, I don't know. There's so many books. There's so many podcasts. It's like, you don't know there's billions of people out there, first of
Yes.
all.
True.
And what I noticed with you, so I'm just really like reflecting this to you because you do this. There's so much value in what you're sharing that it's like, it's almost like, I cannot believe she's sharing all this. There are times I'm like, oh my God, wait, hold on. And you got the show notes. So, I think going back to number one, I love what you said. The secret is actually getting started.
Yes.
My sense is, I can tell with you, and I think goes back to your why. You clearly, I mean, I feel this way too. You really want to help and serve and add value. And that coming from that place really, really is felt, and people can sense that. Plus you are adding value. So it's adding impact where there's a need.
I love that. Yes. And sometimes I put out some content and sometimes I think, ooh, this is like so good. I should be charging for it, but I'm
Yeah.
not. And that's a great sign that you're putting something out there of value. When you feel a little uncomfortable, like, ooh, this is so good, I should be charging for it. Ding, 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 you hit it on the head. Because there's tons that I charge for. And actually, this might be a good moment to talk. I haven't talked about this in a lot of interviews I've done about
Yeah.
the book, but there's a difference between free content and paid content.
Mm.
Free content is where you're going to introduce them to a concept. You're going to give them more of the why than the how. There could be a little how, but it's, introducing them to a concept and kind of getting them started. My paid stuff is step by step by step how to get results. So I'm going to get into much more detail. It's going to be in a sequence, and the ultimate goal is a big result at the end. That's what people pay for. But the free stuff is just getting them in with that why and a little bit of how. So there might be overlap between your free and your paid. Just a little overlap is totally fine, but
Yes.
that's the distinction between the two.
I love that. That was helpful for me. And that's helpful just for, I think, anyone, the free versus paid, which, by the way, all of this will be in a blog and show notes because
Awesome.
we're going through a lot. You actually, I think, just exactly where I want to go next,
Oh,
which
good.
is around getting paid,
Mm,
is around the money. Woo, do I see this? And I'm imagining, maybe you've experienced this, seen this, money blocks can come up, getting paid, especially when it's something you love, when you feel like, I could do this for free all day, or why would someone want to pay me? I mean, I want to look at this whole, and we can also get into, I know you talk about revenue generating ideas, but I think before that, just to look a little bit at the money piece, because I know that that's a part that can be so uncomfortable for those that are used to working for someone else. I mean, I'd never thought about, I remember when someone was like, what do you charge to coach? I'm like, I have no idea. I can't believe you want to pay me.
it's so true.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the money anxiety because it's twofold. Number one, if you're leaving a 9 to 5 job, just the idea of leaving a regular paycheck is terrifying.
Yeah.
And so getting through that is one thing, and I'll come back to that. And then the other thing is, once you are out in the world, and some people listening right now have already quit their 9 to 5 job, once you are out in the world, there's no guarantee that that money's going to be coming in, and you've got to figure out how to get it in consistently. So there's two different areas right there, which is why a lot of people don't get started, because they let the fear of the money hold them back. The challenge is two things. Number one, when you have a 9 to 5 job, there is no guarantee. I could tell you story after story of my students who, let me tell you a quick one. One of my students, she was in the marketing field for like 20 years, and she always thought about starting her own thing, but she never got started. Her name's Carolyn. She never got started. And then one day she showed up to work and she got laid off. And so
Mm.
she didn't have any side hustle, anything that she wanted to do on the side or get started. And so now she was let go. And that regular paycheck that she thought she could count on forever was no longer there. And so you're not as safe as you think you are in your 9 to 5 job. And look around right now, and we're seeing, I couldn't believe Zoom is doing layoffs. I was so surprised to hear that.
Mm.
Disney, Zoom, all these other tech companies, it's happening a lot right now. And so, number one, let's not bank on the fact that you think you're 100% guaranteed that paycheck. You're not. But also, here's what you do when you're in your 9 to 5 job and you want to leave and you have money anxiety, get clear on your finances. You've got to open your eyes, get really clear. Maybe if you have a spouse, have that conversation. What do we really need to make every single month to pay the bills? Because it might actually allow you to think, oh, wait a second. Okay, this might be a little easier than I thought. If we cut back here, if we sacrifice a little just in the first year of entrepreneurship, get a little scrappy, you can have a little wiggle room to make the mistakes you need to make. So get clear on your finances and then you can ask yourself, well, do I need to save a little money before I leave? One of my students, he saved for 6 months. He wanted 6 months of living expenses before he went out on his own. So instead of, I teach people how to choose an exit date for your job. Instead of choosing his exit date, he said, I need to have X amount of money in my bank. And then that day I'm ready to give my 2 weeks notice. And I thought that was fantastic. And he wanted it bad enough that he was very aggressive in terms of saving that money. And so saving a certain amount of money could absolutely give you a little bit of that confidence to say, okay, when I have this money, that's when I'm leaving.
Oh yeah, that is such wisdom right there. So choosing your exit date could actually be really based financially. Like when are
Yeah.
you feeling comfortable and like you have enough to support yourself so that that extra added stress is because yeah, I mean I've been there. It's like
Yeah.
I have no idea how that's coming. I have no
It's so
idea.
true. And then
Yeah.
that reminds me. So when you go out on your own, one of the things I talk about in the book is putting together some packages that you could sell and make money with. And so
Yeah.
when you know I've got to make X amount of money every month as an entrepreneur, then we can reverse engineer your offers to say, okay, if you're going to be a coach, and let's say you want to do small group coaching and you're going to take 10 clients and you're going to coach them for 3 months, what are we going to price that package for? And how are you going to get these 10 people in? And will that cover your bills for the month or the next 3 months? And if not, then you got to get a little bit more creative. But I love this idea of reverse engineering once you know what your number is.
Mm. And this, I know you go more into this in the book, but I think this whole coming up almost with like a profit plan or some sort of, what's the target? And listen, when you shared about your revenue and the amazing like where you are, I'm just gonna say, like for most starting out, that is not like you're just the aim is gonna be different when you're starting out,
Oh,
right?
yes. All I wanted to do was try to make as much money as I made in my 9 to 5 job.
Yes.
That was my goal. And
Yep.
I did it my first year. My second year, I didn't though. My second year of business, I made less than my first year in business. And it was because I was trying new things and changing my business model and kind of finding my way. And so that's going to happen. But making millions wasn't even on my radar for years. And so we need to be realistic and also be kind to ourselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying that. I had the same goal, Amy. I was like, if I can just make what I was making, and I literally to the dollar was like, well, I just made exactly what I made. So you
Isn't
know what?
it wild?
There we go.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's a really great first goal. Whether you do it the first year or second year, just I think it's a really realistic goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it kind of feels like, well, I knew I could do it there. I could live
Yes.
on that. So if I do that again, then I all will be okay. So I always like to ask this question. I call them heart flares, where it's just something maybe I didn't ask you that, you know, we're really you have so much experience and strength and wisdom here. Is there anything either I didn't ask you yet or something that you just feel like you want to make sure that we cover for those that are either have started a business, about to, have been thinking about it, have been putting it off? We want to help you.
Here's what I'll say. I talked a little bit about my success over the 14 years, but to kind of punctuate the point that I made earlier, I didn't set out to make all this money or to help this many students. I really just wanted to make an impact and have a nice life while calling the shots. And so, what I want everyone to think about, whether you've already left your 9 to 5 job or you're still in it and you want to leave, all you need to do is focus on what would make you really happy. What kind of life do you want?
Mm.
Don't compare yourself to anybody. And also, it's very dangerous to compare yourself to anyone because you're comparing the back end of your business and life to the front, shiny end of theirs. Like, we're only sharing our highlight reel on social media. So be very careful about that. But more importantly, what do you want? How do you want to live your life? And entrepreneurship is a beautiful way to get what you want, but it's going to take a lot of courage to take that leap. And I'm here to say, every single one of you listening, you have the courage in you to take that leap. I have no doubt in my mind. All you got to do is, unfortunately, the hard part is do it scared. Do it with all the worries. Do it anxious because you'll never be ready, but the rewards will blow your mind when you actually do it.
Oh, that that right there, my friends, that is, I think that actually goes for everything is just,
Yes.
yeah, follow the arrow. And I love what you said to do it scared. It's really true. It's true.
Yeah.
Amy, I don't know if you ever think like this. For me, one of the things I kept thinking about is I love my father to pieces, and he's somebody who did not necessarily follow his gifts and strengths in the way I wish he had. And he said to me a lot like, "Oh, Joel, it's so great. You actually like, you went for it." And I used to think like, I don't want to get to that latter part of my life or the end, got, hopefully not for a long time, but to
Right.
look back and say like, shit, I missed it. And I think what's so powerful and important about this, what you're talking about, your work, this book, is I know anyone who's listening, I know this. If not them, it's a friend, it's a spouse, it's a partner, it's someone they know. I know so many people have this on their heart. Like, I really just want to go for this. I want to coach. I want to be a healer. I want to be a teacher. I want to do more on my own terms and call the shots. I just, like you said, you don't want to look back and feel like you missed it. We get that one shot here as ourselves. So do it
So
scared.
true. Do it scared. It's
Yes.
time.
Thank you so much for doing it scared.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun to get to know you even more and come on the show again. And really, I think this is such an important message. So the fact that you and I got to discuss it means the world.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. And I want to thank all of you, my Used You community and family and listener. Thank you. Thank you. And please, please, please take what Amy said to heart. Whatever is on your heart, do it. Do it scared. Let her know. Let me know. Like, we'd love to hear, what are you doing? What is it you're going to do scared? We're going to cheer you on, and just appreciate each of you for taking the time to really tune into your best self. That is what is going to change the world. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you, my friend.